John Harbaugh stayed quiet for a long time, but now he's finally speaking up. And when he talks about Lamar Jackson and the way his time with the Ravens ended, a lot of things suddenly shift. Rumors, twisted narratives, and that idea that someone got someone else fired all start getting put to the test. What Harbaugh said isn't throwaway quote or coach speak. It goes straight to Lamar's image, the recent history of the franchise, and everything that's been said about that breakup. Stick around until the end. Because once you really break down his words, there's a lot more there than it seems at first. Harbaugh chose to speak openly at a moment when a lot of people are still trying to figure out what really happened in Baltimore. Right after taking the Giants' job, he didn't dodge the toughest question. He addressed Lamar Jackson head-on. According to Harbaugh, there was never any bad blood, tension, or lingering discomfort between them. The relationship was always solid, professional, and genuine. He went well beyond football. This wasn't just about schemes, play calling, or wins and losses. Harbaugh talked about day-to-day trust, mutual respect, and real human connection. He described Lamar as someone special, making it clear their bond went far beyond the field and the locker room. That alone blows up the idea that a silent problem had been building for years. Statements like that carry weight because they come from the person who was there every single day. This isn't a leak report or a source close to the situation. It's the head coach himself saying out loud that Lamar was never a point of conflict. For anyone who follows the Ravens closely, that helps separate rumor from reality and understand what didn't happen. And once it becomes clear that Lamar wasn't the issue, the conversation naturally shifts. The focus moves to the bigger picture, the locker room, the overall environment, and the internal decisions made by the organization. That's where the next layers of this story start to appear. After addressing the personal side, Harbaugh made a point to remind everyone of something that defined the Ravens' recent era. Lamar Jackson was never just a starting quarterback. He was the heart of a project that completely reshaped the franchise's identity. This wasn't only about winning games. It was about changing how Baltimore showed up on the field every single week. The Ravens' offense was built entirely around Lamar's strengths. Every detail was adjusted to take advantage of his mobility, quick processing, and ability to create when a play broke down. That takes full buy-in from a head coach, the willingness to challenge convention, and a real partnership between the person calling the plays and the person executing them. When Harbaugh talked about that period with pride, it directly pushes back against a criticism that gained traction in recent years. The idea that he no longer knew how to use Lamar doesn't hold up when he's clearly outlining the offensive impact they built together. He doesn't sound bitter or defensive. He sounds like someone who understands the value of what they accomplished. And by making it clear that the football itself was never the breaking point, the conversation shifts again. If the offense had an identity and the quarterback remained the centerpiece, then the root of the issue had to be somewhere else. That's where this story starts to take on another layer. Even with Harbaugh firmly defending Lamar, one perception continued to linger after his firing. The sense that the Ravens' internal environment wasn't the same as it had been in previous years. Reports started surfacing about natural wear and tear, communication breakdowns, and a cycle that may have simply run its course. That kind of erosion doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, through small day-to-day moments, decisions that no longer land the same way, and relationships that lose a bit of their rhythm. In long-tenured situations, especially in the NFL, that's more common than people realize. The problem is that when a head coach is fired, the search for someone to blame starts immediately. And almost every time, the quarterback gets pulled into that conversation, especially when he's the face of the franchise. Even without clear evidence, Lamar found himself placed at the center of that narrative. That's exactly why Harbaugh's words matter so much now. By removing Lamar from that equation, he redirects the focus to something bigger than one player. And within that broader context, another name starts to stand out.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
Over time, reports began to surface involving offensive coordinator Todd Monken. Some accounts suggested he was viewed internally as more distant, less open to dialogue, and not always flexible in his relationships with players. In a league built on trust, that kind of perception can quickly become an issue. That doesn't mean Monken was incompetent or disrespected. It points to a human disconnect, where the personal fit didn't always match the tactical one. When communication breaks down, even good ideas can create friction and barriers inside the locker room. The impact of that kind of tension spreads. Players feel it, coaches feel it, and the overall vibe of the team starts to shift. In those situations, the head coach often absorbs the pressure, even when the issue isn't tied to one specific decision or individual. And that's where this circles back to Lamar. Even without a direct conflict, the quarterback ends up operating inside a heavier environment. That's ultimately what pushed the franchise owner to step in. When Steve Bisciotti decided to act, he made it clear that he spoke with Lamar Jackson and other veteran leaders before making any final decision. That shows Harbaugh's departure wasn't impulsive or driven by a single clash, but by a broader evaluation of where the franchise stood. The key detail is this. According to Bisciotti himself, Lamar told him he had no issues with either Harbaugh or Monken. That completely undercuts the idea that the quarterback pressured ownership or played a role in getting the coach fired. Harbaugh's public comments now reinforce that exact version of events. By defending Lamar so clearly, he helps close this chapter under a different light, not as a personal feud, but as an organizational decision to change direction. In the end, the message for anyone following the Ravens is pretty clear. Lamar Jackson was not the villain of this story. He remains the centerpiece of the franchise, while the team works to turn the page and write the next chapter of its journey. John Harbaugh finally spoke, and once he did, the tone of the story changed. His words make it clear that Lamar Jackson was never the problem, never the breaking point, and never at odds with his head coach. What really happened was the end of a long cycle, shaped by natural wear, internal decisions, and a franchise trying to figure out where to go next. That public statement doesn't erase everything that happened, but it puts each piece back where it belongs. It protects Lamar's legacy, challenges lazy narratives, and reinforces that Harbaugh's firing was far more institutional than personal. For those who follow the Ravens closely, that matters, because it reshapes how this era will be remembered. Now I want to hear from you. After everything Harbaugh said, do you think Lamar was unfairly turned into the villain of the story? Or do you still feel there are unanswered questions about how this ended? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation isn't over yet.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.